I'd like to call this meeting of the Ellettsville Planning and Zoning Board to order Thursday, February 6, 2020, 6 p.m. First, we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Denise.
Terry Baker.
Here.
David Drake.
Here.
Don Calvert.
Here.
Sandra Hash. Here. Pamela Samples. Here. Dan Swafford.
Here.
Pat Wesolowski.
Here. Okay, next thing is I'd like to welcome a new member, Pam Samples, to the Planning and Zoning Board. She's a representative from the Town Council.
Thank you.
Next will be election of officers.
I'd like to nominate Sandra Hash for president.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any other motions? None being heard. Roll call.
Terry Baker.
Yes.
David Drake.
Yes.
Sandra Hash. Abstain. Don Calvert.
Yes.
Pam Samples. Yes. Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Do we have a vice?
Vice President will be the next
That's coming up.
nomination for Vice President.
I'll nominate Terry Baker.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? None being heard. Roll call, please.
Terry Baker.
Abstain?
David Drake.
Yes.
Sandra Hash.
Yes.
Don Calvert.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, I think that's all of our officers. Okay, next I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, October 3, 2019, and December 5, 2019. We'll take them in first. We'll take the October 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. December the 5th minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, monthly conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest of anything we're discussing tonight? None being heard. There's no old business. And before we move to new business, I will move over to switch places with Sandy. Let her take over.
I'll pass that to Terry.
Is my paperwork still there?
No.
Or did I get it already?
Yeah.
I must have got it.
Yeah. Okay, under new business, we have voluntary annexation of 8118 West Reeves Road, Ellettsville, 87 acres. Petitioner Jerry Sanders. On behalf of Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation, case number PC 2001.
All right. Good evening. Your first case of the year, I guess. First one tonight is a 100% voluntary annexation for Richland Bean Blossom Schools. They are asking to bring in 4 undeveloped parcels of land on Reeves Road and North Sycamore Drive. Total acreage is a little under 87 acres. Basically, they just want to be annexed, so that brings all of their property under one jurisdiction, which would be the town's. We're recommending an R1 single-family residential zoning, which is what the rest of the school properties are zoned. All the legal requirements have been met, and staff recommends favorable recommendation to town council with an R1 zoning. Just point out which parcels they are. There's the one on North Sycamore, which is a little donut hole that I think is a cornfield right now, and 3 directly to the west of the elementary school. There's no plans for the northern lot. There may be some expansion onto these lots from the elementary school.
Does that reach all the way down to the farmhouse?
I believe it does. And just kind of a couple pictures showing what it looked like last week when I was out there. Nothing much to it. Hay, dead grass. That is all I have. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. I don't think anyone from school showed up, but I can handle any questions on this.
I have a question,
Yes.
out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Why did the school buy all that? Did they have plans for it originally, or?
I have
Just-
no idea why I mean, they've owned it for a little while now.
When they built the new ones, probably?
Probably, I think they just wanted it for expansion and a buffer.
How many acres they got there total? Do you know?
There's,
They're 100?
it's 87 for all 4 parcels that,
Yeah, I realize that for the new part, but how about the,
oh, counting what they have already?
yeah,
Oh, God, it's probably well over 100.
100, yeah. Well, by annexing this, this helps the landowners around it, if they want to come into the town, a lot easier, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay,
So that's, I think the town's behind that part as well.
yeah.
Is there any more discussion or questions? If not, then we're ready for a motion for a recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we make a favorable recommendation to the town council to approve case number PC 2020-01, the RBB schools annexation of approximately 87 acres, and that the property be zoned R1.
I'll second it.
Okay, second, okay.
Okay, all those in, well, no, we have to take a roll call vote.
Please.
So Denise, please.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
David Drake,
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pat Wazalowski,
Yes.
motion carried.
Well, next thing is text amendments, and Kevin, that's you too, right?
Yep. There were a whole series of text amendments that were sent out for Plan Commission. I will say that all these are directly related to our upcoming building department, mostly with the building department fee, well, entirely fees and the procedures of the building department that relate to zoning and planning. As part of that, because we had to develop a brand-new fee schedule for the building permits, I moved all of the planning fees and the building permit fees into the same chart so that someone can find them all in the same location. In doing so, I had to change the references to 9 other codes, which is why there's so many text amendments. Most of them, that is all there is to it, is just changing a reference, but those have to be approved. The fee schedule, which is the big portion of this, it's been set up in a way to be lower than what a resident would pay now for a building permit for pretty much anything. And I sent out the examples of those and tried to make sure I covered as many different things as I could. it'd be lower than what they pay now, which is through Monroe County, where they pay a small fee to us and a much larger fee to the county. But, I mean, they will be higher than what the town charges now. Overall, their fees will be, the builder will see a lower fee. And those fees are used to cover the department expenses of taking on the building department, including the building inspector's salary, which we should have a building inspector starting hopefully by the end of this month. We've already conducted interviews and are finishing up that process. Also with the building department, the code has been sent to the state Department of Homeland Security, where they review it. They'll send it back with any suggestions. From there, it will go to town council for approval, and then I have to send it back to the state for final approval before it becomes official. So I'm hoping to have it to council in March, first meeting. Maybe sooner if I get it back. I just don't know how long it'll take. That will not come before Plan Commission. Where am I at here? Oh yeah, all the legal requirements have been met regarding the text amendment. Notice was put in the paper, and since I'm asking for all this, of course, I recommend a favorable recommendation to town council. I'll start with the section, there's two sections that were significantly changed. Well, one was changed, one was added. The first section is 152.183, which talks about site improvement permits. What this, in theory, would cover is any building permit that affects the footprint of a structure. Why there are two different things is a very long, detailed issue. Short story, it is to prevent people from finding loopholes around building code and building stuff without getting a permit. We had this section in our code now, but it wasn't very strong. This will be very well explanatory, and in doing so, and what I've seen in some other ordinances that it covered the site improvement permits, or whatever other places are called improvement location permits, in case anyone wanted to look that up, is setting some guidelines for what we require, what we're going to require whenever we start bringing in permits to the town. And those are 5 basic categories. First, it talks about which activities require permits, and it's basically any building activity that alters a footprint of a structure or adds a structure, removes a structure, things of those nature. It includes storage tanks, swimming pools over 42 inches in depth, which is a threshold set in Indiana residential code. Decks and porches, adding or subtracting dwelling units or lease space in multifamily or multi-unit commercial structures, manufactured mobile homes, telecommunication towers, buildings and antennas, and any exterior construction that adds to or alters the height of an existing structure. Exempt from site improvement permits are fences, walls, and hedges, which are currently exempt, so that's not a change, and patios, which are less than 30 inches above the final grade on which they are constructed. And also cosmetic changes to any structure, including replacement of windows, siding, roofing, or painting. Those 3 items are already exempt from building permits. This is just clarifying it so there's no questions going forward. That's not a change from anything we do now. Application requirements. This is mostly to help myself, Denise, and our new building inspector make sure we have what we need, and we can give people a list of these are the things we expect from you when you bring in a building permit or a site improvement permit. It talks about site plan, what required of the site plan, a description of the use, how how many dwelling units or tenant spaces there will be, driveway permit, we require driveway permits if you're building a driveway or adding significantly to a driveway. Building permit application in case it somehow runs differently. In most situations, a site improvement permit will cover the building permit. And proof of ownership, which is usually either a deed or an affidavit from the owner stating that I own this property and I give my tenant permission to do whatever work they're doing. This section also covers action on permit applications, which we do not have in writing anywhere right now. We try to turn around permits as quickly as possible. This sets a time period so when someone drops a permit off, they know what to expect, because right now the county gives them all sorts of random timelines and never bothers to ask us what ours are or tell us when there's permits ready. It's a messy situation. This will let them know exactly what to expect. And we will stick by these timelines, and in most cases will be half that time. Expiration of permits, that is currently in building code. I don't know if it's worded, our existing code, if it's worded the same way. This is the exact wording from our proposed building code, so they will match each other exactly. So that site improvement locations. One other minor change to accessory structures. And this is something, I should say on number 4 and number 5 under C, I changed a couple of the words this afternoon when I went back and reviewed this. For under driveway permit application and building permit application, it didn't really change what it meant. It just was kind of sloppily worded from my first draft. So that is what there were a couple loose papers I'd set out for everyone. Yes.
On this accessory structures,
Yes.
it says building permits are required for any accessory building over 99 square feet.
Yes.
Are you talking stick building, built on premise? How about buying a shed from Lowe's or Menards or wherever?
Those all require permits.
They're gonna
yes.
all require permits then, even if they're not permanently structured there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wondered, under the application requirements, site plan Part D, do we have any septic fields in town? Because I thought to be in town, you had to be on our sewer.
If you're within and I don't remember I don't have that in front of me right now. If you're within so many feet of sewer, existing sewer, you do have to connect. I want to say it's like 300 feet. So almost all the town is on sewer. This is looking at down the line if we start annexing out into some of the more rural areas that could be on septic. I just want to make sure that's in there, but generally no. We have annexed a few people that are on septic.
And if they are on septic, do they have a minimum lot size?
Yeah,
Or
that is in our code now.
Just a different
Minimum-
section?
Yeah.
I got another question too. Construction, removal, or replacement of storage tanks.
Yes.
Does the state, like if I'm gonna put in a convenience store with pumps, does the state require a permit for me to put tanks in the ground?
Yeah, I think that's a
Are we gonna
whole
double
separate-
that? Are we gonna require that also then?
That's a separate, this is more referring to like if someone has a propane tank or something like that. What you're talking about will be covered under commercial permit. So there wouldn't be anything separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under A, number 1, construction, removal, demolition, or replacement of any structure which exceeds 99 square feet.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that if you have less than 99 square feet? Am I misreading that?
Right now, Yeah, if you have a structure that's under, it would be under 100 square feet, you wouldn't require a permit.
Okay, but what if that's close to or covers something that they're not aware of, that the town has, or up next to something that somebody has, and there's nobody gonna watch that as it's constructed, right?
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, that happens now. People ask, because right now, it's anything under 120 square feet. We're trying to, and that's exactly why I'm lowering it, trying to catch more of these, where people are putting them in easements, is usually what happens, especially in drainage easements, and then it causes other issues, but
Yeah, but whether it's necessary to have a permit or not, I think maybe somebody ought to be looking at that, so that you don't have to go back later on when the neighbor complains, or the town utilities can't get through there, or they block an easement, or...
and we try to keep up with that as much as possible. If someone calls and asks us, like, you know, we want to put up an 8x10 shed, like, you don't need a permit, but you can't put it in your easement. It needs to be so far off the property line, and we'll check those, but people sneak stuff in all the time that we don't know about. And that's kind of, with having a building inspector here, I'm hoping to catch that stuff quicker, if at all. So I'm sure there's some we don't know about. And I don't, unless you're out almost every day driving by, I don't know how to catch some of this.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What if I have I'll use the number 20 by 20 shed, and only tear down 3 sides of that building? Well, which has happened. Kentucky Fried Chicken up in, over here at Highland Village tore down 3 sides and left 1 up, if you remember. If I do that, do I have to get a permit?
The building that they did that with?
Yes, they did.
I'll tell you why. That someone else did this. That's a county regulation.
Right.
That won't happen here. The reason they did that would not happen here,
Why do they do that?
because if they tore the whole structure down, they wouldn't be able to rebuild.
That's right. And that's my question is if I tear down 3 sides of a building, do I need a permit? I'm not tearing down the building, I'm only tearing down partial of it.
I honestly don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know. I don't know why anyone would tear down 3 sides of a shed.
So they wouldn't have to get a permit. That's why.
Then, congratulations. I'm
sorry I asked, but.
I honestly, I don't have time to go around and babysit everyone in town who's trying to skip out of things. I know people do it. Denise knows people do it. It's ridiculous, but I don't want to write the code to cover every little thing. I think that's overkill. But what's your, but,
Pardon me?
That would become a safety issue, and we'd probably declare it blight and have it removed one way or another. Ask Darla for help.
And didn't they used to, didn't require permit for a utility building if it wasn't permanently mounted, if it's something that could be moved back years ago?
yeah, I mean, we've always required permits. It was just based on the size, whether it was permanent or temporary.
When I put mine up, we checked and no permit was required because it was movable.
Really?
Yes.
That's correct, yeah.
At that time, they said because it's not anchored to the ground,
That's right.
you don't need a permit for it. Back several years ago.
Also, since I've been here, there hasn't been a change, and it's just based on the size.
Well, this was several years before you got here. But, you know, that's something you might run into. Some that are older that now want to put another one in.
Sure.
They may think they can just jerk it out and,
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't know if we'd ever catch any of that.
no, okay.
If they, sheds are not our biggest concern. I don't want them in store or drainage easements and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but
As long as they don't infringe upon somebody else's
Yeah.
property and the right of ways.
yeah,
That's the main
that's the
thing.
big thing. Occasionally we're run into where they're on someone else's property altogether.
Yes.
And that's the whole point. The permits aren't to punish people. It's really for their protection. We can look at it and make sure that everything's lined up so they don't have problems going forward, but. Okay, so that was all on that section. Let's see, what do I got next? I'll come back to the fee schedule because that'll probably take a few minutes. Or maybe not, I don't know. Either way, I'm gonna do that last. Some of the other changes, because I had to make a couple other updates. 152.244 was application fees on wireless communication facilities. For whatever reason, I completely forgot to change that when I sent this out last week. That was another one. It was just a reference change to the new section for fees. So that whole section got crossed out and changed to just a one sentence reference. So that was on the new sheet. 152.073, that was another thing I caught, or actually Denise helped me catch some of these things today, because I'm missing all sorts of stuff trying to rush through it, which I shouldn't be doing, but that's here nor there. And I was just clarifying the reference on that and taking out extra language, which was starting to get confusing.
Is that permit for the wireless, is that for like on top of the towers and
Really, that's just new towers.
just new towers?
Yeah, which,
Not like the water tower if they put up a,
no, those usually are exempt for what a
Okay.
little bit the work they're doing. And they might require an electrical permit, but not.
okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, I haven't done a wireless tower. That was, and that did bring up one other thing on the fee schedule. I did change the fee for the wireless communication facilities to $200 from, currently it's $150 plus the cost of mailings that we would have to do, and I just thought that was kind of convoluted. So just set it at 200 and be done with it. I don't know that anyone's ever gonna build another wire or a cell tower in town anyway.
Well, if they start going to 5G, they will be a bunch of something.
Well, then they
But-
can just put them on the top of a
Existing
light.
telephone pole or something.
Yeah.
street light or just
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah, the new thing is just, yeah, basically like telephone poles, so.
Bigger cities, I've seen them on the decorative street lights, just a little structure on top.
Yep,
There was a period of time we could have forbid those.
the states blocked that.
Yeah,
I don't think
we
there's
missed
any-
that deadline. That's been a couple of years ago.
And they've chiseled away at that too since then. I don't even, so I don't, but the days of the giant cell towers, I don't know that, I think we'll see them in areas where there's not much in the way of rural areas, but I think in town, I doubt. We may see one in the outskirts someday though.
Yeah, you're gonna still see the big towers because the 5G doesn't work.
Oh, really?
No, it's very
Well,
limited distance. It's almost line of sight. So the ones that are on 5G now are using the 4G towers and 4G frequencies for most of the stuff until they get into an area where the 5G is available.
Well, maybe we will see them.
Uh-huh.
Our zoning makes it kind of tough to put them at most places too,
Yeah.
but
And
Not impossible.
we're not in conflict with any of the FCC rules and regulations on towers, are we?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Because I know amateur radio operators have some leeway on their towers and stuff too.
Yeah, I think and I wasn't here when our wireless tower ordinances were revised last, but I don't think it was too terribly long before I got here. So I think those should be okay.
No, it was just a couple of years before you got here, I think, before we went through them again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, the remainder of the text amendments are simply just updating the reference code to 152.363, which is the new section for fees. Covered everything on that. And I'll talk about the occupants, certificate of occupancies when I go through all this. Where's the first page of that? Okay. Yeah, as I said, these are the current fees that we have. The only one highlighted in yellow is the wireless communication facility site plan, which, like I said, we bumped up from 150 to 200 and took the mailing charge out. So I don't know how much mailing was involved or was supposed to be involved, so I figure that's probably fairly close. But giving them a flat rate makes it easier for someone to budget instead of a variable in there. Only reason for that, everything else on that's the same, but now it's just in one chart. The big piece are all the building fees. And I wasn't planning on going through these one by one. I can answer questions on any of them in general or anything in particular. I mean, I've looked at a lot of other fee schedules from other jurisdictions to see what they charge, especially Monroe County, since that's what we're going off of now. And I wanted to make sure, and I did put the county's fees in, so you can see a comparison to what would be charged now and what will be charged after we get our department up and running. And to make it easier, I did the calculations and put it in a neat little spreadsheet so you can see what the savings would be for various types of structures and various sizes. I did that residential, I think I did it commercial too, yeah.
All these fees will come back to the planning department, correct?
They would go to the general fund,
They go to general fund?
yeah, which is what we get funded out of, so,
Okay.
but yeah. So if there's a lot of building permit fees, it would go into the general fund and could be used for something else in the future, but.
But when you make your budget out for the planning department, and as you're stating, we're getting a new employee, okay? The first year, no doubt that's coming out of the general budget, but the second year, you can't plan out of the planning department? Money that's coming in?
Well, all of our money comes out of the general fund as well. So for the planning, so, I mean, it's in our budget within the general fund,
Okay.
but essentially, it all goes back into the general fund, so it'll replace itself. And I will say, right now, based on the driveway permits that have come in the first 5 weeks of this year, we're on pace to destroy the record we set last year for new houses. We're up to what, almost 20 driveway permits? Yeah,
In 5 weeks.
yeah. Winter. When I started, I think we did about 2 in the same time period. So it's been a very busy month of January for us.
But the new fees he's going to bring in, he did do a spreadsheet, and it will support the new person that they need for the building inspections.
Say that again now?
With-
I didn't hear you.
Go ahead.
I ran, originally, and this was last year, I ran numbers to figure out what fee we can do, how we can charge less than the county, but still set up in a way that it will cover our building inspector and related fees. So the way it's set up and the numbers that are on there are enough to cover with just a tiny cushion, probably maybe like $2,000 based off of previous years. So that way we're not overcharging for permits, but we're still making this a sustainable operation.
When you were doing that, did you anticipate 5 years from now doing that?
I mean,
I'm using that as a number. It could have been 10, could be 3 or whatever.
What I did, I went back 3 years on permits to figure out kind of what we've been doing every year and trying to piece together, because there were other stuff that the county was getting permit money on that we weren't getting, like electrical, plumbing permits, stuff like that. So there's actually, and that's not even factored in. I don't think it was a bit large amount, but so I figured that's just extra. But yeah, and kind of figured out where, looking at what lots, especially 'cause the majority of our permits are new single-family homes, and what lots are coming available, what ones look like they'll be available. So I'd say for the probably next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be pretty set. We'll actually probably overshoot what I thought we were going to do.
Okay, is there any other questions on the text amendments?
You forgot to bring them something.
Certificate of occupancy, thank you.
Sure.
That is one thing, one item that is on the fee schedule that I don't have a fee for. And I've seen it treated differently in different jurisdictions, and that is what I did want to leave up to Planning Commission for guidance on. Do we want to charge for certificate of occupancy? Should it be considered part of their actual building permit and only charge if there's a unique situation where they need one without a building permit? Do we not charge for them at all?
Explain to me what it is, or explain to all of us, whatever.
The certificate of,
I know what it is.
I can't even say it. Basically, once the final inspection's been done, it's the occupancy permit given to the developer, builder,
Correct.
homeowner. So that way, I know for homeowners, you need it for different things.
Now, we have to go out there and inspect it. And I say we, the building
The building
inspector.
inspector, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, and at the present time, it's not involved in the building permit. Am I correct? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what exactly the county does. I haven't found where they charge separately for occupancy certificates.
When I worked years ago at the fire department, and our fire chief was the inspector, it was one fee, building permit fee, and that covered all your different inspections,
Sure.
including the certificate of occupancy. I don't know how the county's done it, and that's been many years ago, but
That looks like how they do it, but I haven't gotten a clear answer on that. But they also have a fee for certificate of occupancy on their fee schedule, and I haven't been able to put that together why they have that fee, but it doesn't look like they're ever charging for it. Places I've done it before, it's been included as part of the building permit.
Yeah.
I've seen other places where it's not.
the main thing is whether we charge or not, that they don't get it until that building has met all the codes.
Oh, yeah.
And I know there's been issues in the past, a long time ago, we discussed because we would have issues with the developer, and we didn't seem to have a mechanism in place to try to get them corrected
Sure.
timely. And at that time, it was brought up that it could be tied somewhat to the occupancy permit, but I don't know that that would be fair to the homeowner or the home buyer if we wanted to deal with the developer.
But it wouldn't be,
Sometimes now we will hold the permits if there's a issue with a developer.
If there's, or if there's a zoning issue or anything else, we can hold permits. Same with the occupancy certificate. We'll hold on to that until everything is exactly like we want it, because trying to do it after the fact is just not really a good idea.
And it seems like
nicely.
drainage is always a big problem, and sometimes we don't realize the drainage problem until we're farther down the road. And
I'm glad you brought that up, so I don't think I covered that earlier, but I did put in the application requirements for grades on the site plans. And that's something I've done before when I've reviewed site, not here, in a different place, but I checked to make sure the grades and that there was a certain percentage difference, so the water was draining off but not too fast. And I think that would be very helpful considering all the drainage issues we're having now.
yes.
yes,
So-
I think that, good.
And will there be an inspection to make sure that what they laid out on their plan as elevation is truly followed? That's a
That-
hard one.
I'm gonna have to see how I'm not sure how that inspection was done before, but I'm gonna figure out a way that our building inspector can do that, if there's a way to shoot elevations quickly. I don't know if there is. Yeah,
Yeah, I need a definition on the residential permits, the very top one, and then there's some others like that. The last one, minimum charge, 125 plus TR. What is TR?
God, I can't read that from here. Oh, and this, okay, I'm on the wrong
There you
one. Okay, yeah, that's, TR is the town rate.
Oh, okay.
Just the way, because they have theirs their minimum charge is different than our minimum charge, and it was not really, there wasn't any easy way to calculate that formula.
And we did not do an increase in our portion of the charges at all since the county took over. Or since, they didn't take over. We asked them to,
Yeah.
since we contracted with them.
Are we paying them to do this?
The county?
Yeah.
Well, we're not, but the town itself is not paying them to do the
Inspections?
the builders are. I mean, whoever's getting the permits paying the county. I mean, they're making quite a
But
bit.
we're not paying them anything?
No.
Okay.
And maybe I slept through this in a prior meeting or something, but why are we switching to our own building department?
That is what the will of the town is, from my understanding.
Okay, I just wondered if there was a particular reason.
Well, you and I lived through the issues of why we contracted with the Monroe County. And our planning staff now did not. So we wish them the best with their new endeavor. It's a big undertaking. It's a big responsibility for this person that you're going to get, so I do wish them success. I mean, it'll bring more revenue to our building department, or our planning department, or the general fund, whatever you want to say. But in the past, it brought grief. So hopefully, it all depends in the job that's done, and if the job is done well, then we'll be okay.
And I think that was our big concern, was getting an inspector that can do all that, and we're pretty comfortable with where we're at right now in hiring someone. I've been fortunate or unfortunate, depending how you want to look at it, to run 2 building departments essentially in my last 2 positions. So I have an idea of what's involved in it. I think I've learned a lot from that. I think this is going to be set up where we're really going to be better off. Financially, it's going to be a wash. I mean, we may add a little bit, but that was not the reasoning for it. On the planning department end, wasn't thrilled with what I heard about residential inspections, which is, like I said, I think like 90% of what we do are residential permits. The commercial side, I've heard, has been done very well, but the residential part was not, and that's what worried me. This gives us more control over what we're looking at. A lot of the final inspections on homes, well, all the final inspections on homes were done by the county entirely, so there were things, little things, but things not being done that were supposed to be done that they weren't checking for, and we didn't know about until after the fact.
What about commercial? They're quite a bit more difficult to inspect. Will you have assistance on that, or?
It's going to depend on how complex the project is. So commercial and multifamily, it just really depends. If it's something that is going to be a very difficult, we're going to look at contracting it out. But
Is there a firm available to do that?
there's several around in the area. We'll probably have to take bids at
Is this a part-time position or a full-time?
part-time,
How many hours?
25-ish.
25-ish?
And one of the other things, the county doesn't look at our building codes for everything. We've ran into a lot of problems where they haven't checked these things, and then they're building a house, and then the homeowners will come and say, we're sending them notices that they're violation of the county or the town ordinances, and they say, well, they said it was okay.
Yeah.
So by having our own, they're going to be familiar with our codes, and we're going to make sure that they're up to our codes.
As a plan commission member, I've never heard that, Terry. Where did you get that information? Where did you get the information about the complaints? I've never heard that discussed at a plan commission.
We had some come into our planning and zoning when we was telling them about some sidewalks and some fences.
Oh, okay. And they complained about their building inspections?
Well, we sent them notices that they were in violation. And they came back and said, well, it was all passed by the inspector.
Can you give me an example
Contractor.
so I can remember?
I know, well, I don't know, I'm fairly certain they don't check setbacks or easements.
What was it?
Maybe in BCA.
Oh, okay, then we wouldn't know about it if it was BZA.
But I mean, I know that, I'm almost certain they do not check to make sure things are where they're supposed to be at. They just check the structure itself.
They don't check our setbacks or anything. When we issue a permit, we catch a lot of things that they just say, here's the application. They don't worry about. We have applications now we've been holding to get things corrected for a few months on the application and the drawings.
And we never know exactly when a permit gets issued. Sometimes people pick them up right away, sometimes they sit there for months. We have no idea what happens with them after they leave our office. So next thing you know, we'll see something go up that, you know, could have been sitting there for 6 months and we, you know, weren't even thinking about it, and then you look at it, it's like, that's not exactly what it was supposed to be.
And there's local companies that will do building inspections for
Those
hire?
firms, yeah.
What's an example of one of those?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of a name, but I know there are some that do, as I've talked to, I've worked with some before. I don't know how local they are, but I know there's firms that do it. I'm not sure if Vine and Faneuil does that or not, but I've talked to Mike Farmer about that before. And I can't remember exactly,
There were several things.
but I know there's some that do that.
Yeah, I would say there's gonna be somebody's gonna be able to do that.
Does the county know that we're gonna be doing our own
Yes.
inspection?
They are aware.
You know, I think it's a great idea, you know, with all the building going on, I would think we'd want to be the first to know, not the last to know what's going on. And listening to you and listening to other people, it seems to me like that's what's going on. What's happening is, you know, we don't know how many homes are going to go up tomorrow or not, because we have nobody there to tell us.
Well, the way it was originally set up when we went with the county is the building permits all came back to Ellettsville. They applied for the building permit was sent to Ellettsville. Ellettsville was responsible to verify the setback lines were met and that the property was all laid out as far as meeting all of our guidelines for placement. And then it went back to the planning department. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, our planning department is aware of the building permits before they're issued, correct?
We know when we get them and review them, but we take them back to the county and we don't know when they issue the permit. They don't tell us when they issue the permit. They just issue it.
We get our permit, we actually issue a permit. And we get it back with our fee written in, but it never says if it's paid or anything. We just get it back, and some people don't build for a number of months, they don't start.
Essentially, what we issued were the site improvement permits that were in the zoning chapter. Those are what we were approving. And we review the setbacks and make sure everything fits and everything looks right, and it does on paper, but they're not checking that. They're not going out there and checking that as part of their inspections.
Luckily, there's a builder that had somebody else, bought the lot, had somebody else building. And luckily for us, he came in and he said, I felt I needed to come in because they've added 12 by 12 onto this house plan and it's not what you approved in your building permit. But nobody probably would have caught it if he hadn't come in to tell us. And thankful he did. That was just 2 weeks ago. And he even had a new drawing. It wasn't the drawing from a different engineer. It wasn't the drawing we were given by the person that originally purchased the lot and was going to have it built.
I mean, there's been numerous examples where buildings have been changed and we don't even know about it. We're never notified. The footprint's changed. I
So
don't care
really,
if
it's a lack of communication. They aren't communicating well with you.
No. They are not. And it's I mean, if you change something inside, that's really not that big of a deal on our end, but if you're adding stuff outside, chances are you're going into a setback. Because a lot of these are built pretty close to setbacks as is. And by the time we get it, they have a finished house and it's, I mean, more than likely it's gonna go to BZA and then probably get approved instead of having someone tear half a house down. I mean, there's no good way out of it, other than catching it before it happens.
Yes,
And
catch it early.
and we can do that if we have the inspector working with us, so we know exactly where things are on a daily, every other day basis.
Well, I didn't mean to start a great big thing about it. I don't keep up with what's going on at the town council like I used to. And this was the first I'd heard about it tonight. And knowing why we switched many years ago, I just wondered what the reason was, so.
Yeah, no, I think I think where our office is now, we're in very good shape to handle it.
We're definitely in a different place now than we were when we transferred them over.
Yes, definitely. And I think having our own inspector and everything, to me, just makes good sense.
I mean, the other thing is it helps out people applying for permits because they can do everything here. The other complaint we get is they have to drive to Monroe County and back and forth, and
The builders really complained pretty bad when we changed it over to Monroe County.
oh, they still do.
Plus, it took a big hit. Our price didn't go up, but with the county adding their price onto it,
Oh, yeah,
they said it was really going to stifle our growth. And then, of course, after that, we had the big, everything went bad for several years, and it did look like our growth was, but it wasn't due to that.
No. But I think that.
That's it?
The certificate of occupancy, what was the general consensus on that?
I'm confused on exactly what you're asking us, so could you do it briefly again?
Should we charge a fee? Should we include it in the building permit? Should we keep a separate fee in case there's something outside a building permit?
My question is, you got the experience of other places.
Yeah.
Okay? How many times in your mind or in your feelings, in your sense, would it take for the building inspector to keep going back to make sure that the job was done correctly? Is it excuse me, is it a lot or is it a minimum?
Generally not. Usually, I mean, a lot of these builders, they'll do it, they know enough to get it right the first time, or they'll go back for once.
And they do a footer inspection.
Yeah, there's a whole series, be a footer, rough in, plumbing, I don't remember what
I'd
that
say
It'll-
put it up front.
Electrical and.
Yeah.
I'd say put it up front with the building versus going in the back end of it.
Sure.
I mean, that's my thought. There might be a home, you only gotta go once, there might be a home, you gotta go 10 times.
Yeah.
But if you do it up front, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be more that you don't have to go back to
Oh, yeah.
many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, I just put it in with the building permit.
That'd be my thought. I mean, I don't know about
There's not
that.
2 fees sitting out there.
Yeah.
Have I got this one? Have you got that one? Just put it all together into one and it's done.
In your mind, or your experience, is there an advantage to having an extra fee on the occupancy report, inspection?
I mean, I don't think it really matters one way or another. I mean, if anything, it's an extra fee at the end that someone's gonna gripe about. But, like, some places do it, and, the fees are the fees. If you want your house, that's what you're gonna pay. I really have no opinion on it.
I think it would just be easier just to include it. Like rather than tell them they have this fee, this fee, this fee, just,
I've done that before too. That's where we charge per inspection. I will never recommend that for anyone. That was a paperwork nightmare.
Yeah, I was going to say that would really add to your paperwork.
I will say, as far as what Pat was asking, we do have a fee in there for if you require multiple inspections beyond what's reasonable. So if it's to the point where you can't get it right after a couple tries, we're gonna charge you extra to send our inspector out because you're either incompetent or just that
Well,
lazy.
then we have it, and I would say, like I said, just go with the front end of it. That'd be my thought. I mean, I don't know about the,
But he's saying then there's a thing in there that says if they have to go back multiple times, then they can charge extra.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So just add the one time to get into the house, or twice, or whatever the number is, and then.
Up front, yeah, okay.
Up front, and then if it goes multiple times, you got your,
They can go
Yeah.
back and charge them.
charge them
Yeah.
again.
That sounds reasonable to me.
I think we had this discussion several years ago, and somebody mentioned, I'm almost in agreement with them, if you're gonna buy a house, you're gonna have it inspected. And if you're gonna loan money on a house, you're gonna have it inspected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Would that not solve the problem?
you would think.
But that's almost a different situation, isn't it? If
Well,
you're gonna
there's some-
buy a house, you have
Yeah.
to have an inspection before you buy it, and that's part of the mortgage process. But you pay an independent inspector for that. That won't be our scope.
Now, and that's correct. I will say this, with the certificate of occupancy, there's gonna be rare occasions where we're gonna run into where someone's asking for one that's not part of a building permit. Either they somehow built something without a permit 50 years ago and now need one, or something, some rare, it happens. Not often, but it does happen. Should we charge a fee in those situations?
Yeah, I don't think you should ever go out for free.
Okay.
But if they need an occupancy permit that doesn't follow a building permit, and it's a standalone permit, then yes, I think.
Okay.
And then if they do that, then that would require our inspector to go out and inspect the place.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I think we should charge for that.
Okay. $100?
Yeah.
That
Sound
sounds
good?
reasonable.
All right.
You don't want to tie it to the square footage like you do a building permit?
For something like that, I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I think just
It would be
flat
more
fee.
time consuming for the inspector because everything is already put up. The drywall's up,
I mean, it's
plumbing's
really-
already in, so he's gonna have to look a lot harder, take a lot of time.
Okay. Well, with that said, unless there's any other questions, I would ask for a favorable recommendation of these text amendments to town council with adding the charge for $100 for certificate of occupancy not tied to an existing building permit.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you. Roll call. We'll wait, I know it's hard to write all that down.
Right, Terry seconded it. Terry Baker,
Yes.
David Drake,
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
Yes,
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pat Lizalowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This will be off to council, so two of you get to hear this again. Not this Monday. You get a break from it for a week.
Give us a break for it.
Yeah.
good, because I didn't get it on the agenda.
It'll be enough to bore everyone to sleep, probably. Okay.
Okay, my planning update.
Updates. Next month, we'll have a fun meeting. We've got two development plans coming in. One for Governor Park, which is the 90-unit Lindsay Hayes senior housing complex, 3 stories. It'll be nice.
Is it truly a senior housing project this time?
Yes, it is.
Not a senior housing project where it ends up being for anybody?
No, it's
Okay.
by law 50. is that
55?
55.
It's low income 55 plus by HUD, I think, for them to
Yeah.
get their money.
I think that's already really filled, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, all units are spoken for.
It's between the existing ones on Allen Street and Matthews Drive, so it's gonna be,
Well, that's the other one. This one,
This one's Lindsay Hayes.
oh, this,
Yeah, that, we're doing that one too.
Okay.
We're doing the development plan for the next phase of the
I
Richland.
got ahead of you.
Senior Citizens Housing. That one's gonna be 50 units.
So the Governor Park one is a go now. They got their.
Yep, they got their funding. I'm guessing they got funding for the the other one too. It'll be actually right, where's the hill that way?
Will we be able to
That
see
way.
it from here?
Which hill?
Where it goes down. It's that, yeah. No, they're gonna be single-story buildings. So, we'll have both of those next month. I don't know of anything else right now. That might be it. But that'll be enough to keep us busy for a while. Also, working on some more text amendments because I know that's everyone's favorites, but I've got a lot of things that need fixed, specifically stormwater and grading that IDEM has told me to fix, so that will be.
And hopefully
Just-
these will be combined into one big ordinance on this and not 25 little ones. Hopefully.
That's a Darla question.
know. Maybe 2 or 3, but oh my goodness.
Well, I've done it both ways, and I guess the problem is, depending on what language you're changing, you may or may not have to publish it. So if you have one big long one, obviously that adds to your publication costs. If we can break it down so that certain sections, the ones that talk about a fine or whatever, those have to be published. Plus, if the town council decides they like part of it but not all of it, then at least they're sending back one section to the plan commission for
Right.
you to revise it as opposed to sending back the whole thing. So, I mean, I'll do it however you want me to do it, and I've done it both ways, and there's good and bad with doing either short ordinance or long ordinance, so,
We will leave that up to your expertise.
okay.
Sorry for the injection.
That's all right. I mean, it's a good thing to talk about.
What else? Oh, last thing, the spring Indiana Planning Conference is in Bloomington this year. It should be fun. I'm on one of the panels talking about housing. So that'll be something for everyone.
Well,
But
that's
if anyone
good.
would like to go to that, please let me know.
Might be fun just to come and see you on the panel.
Come heckle me while I'm up there.
Come up with some good questions.
You don't want me there, then?
Okay, the last item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. Would anyone like to speak?
I got a couple questions, Sandy.
Okay,
Centennial Drive,
Yes.
what's happening with that?
That is an
lot?
excellent question. I don't know. We're waiting on judge right now.
I mean, where is the stand? Is it in court, or is it out of court, going to court?
It is still in court. They're expecting a ruling from the judge any day now.
And what part of the judicial system is it in?
Monroe Circuit Court.
Is it district, or is it
Monroe Circuit.
Circuit.
circuit?
It's Monroe Circuit Court, but it's special judge Nardi.
It's Judge Nardi.
Right, we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
The last briefs were filed on like January 10th, maybe, or something like that?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, the other question is what's happening with anything happening with the property across from West Side convenience store out there on the hill?
Unlit Estates. The townhomes that were approved last year, we
Right.
just got the grading permit for this week. This week? Yeah, Monday.
This week.
I'm talking about the apartments out there.
Apartments. I don't know yet.
And how long do they have? They have eternity to keep it?
Our site plans don't expire. That's another thing that needs revised. But as of now, there's no expiration date on it.
Oh
So,
my God.
and there's a property that sits between Maine and Temperance that has some issues. Do you have any updates on that?
it is going to court in
September.
September.
Oh, that long? You know, when you look at that property from Temperance, they're actually building out behind a neighboring property.
Their property line runs weird through there. It actually.
They just
well,
have a little triangular lot that one limestone house sits on?
Yeah, the property line runs an angle.
Yes.
Or cuts, I forget which way. It's not a normal lot. Now, there's been questions on the survey whether that's accurate or not. But that's between the property owners. The rest of it,
Because the driveway is right up against that house. He hits the shrubs when they pull in, and
they've been
then,
arguing about
and
it.
they go
Yeah.
around behind the house, the structure.
Yep,
Yeah.
they've been fighting about it.
And their building materials lack,
Lots of things.
yes.
Yeah.
And the fire safety, I mean, they have 2 stovepipes going through their structure.
Yep, heats his banana tree.
That is very specifically what the section 183 is going to address to prevent, which I think it does now, but this will definitely, it'll be a lot sturdier of an ordinance.
Well, I
Even-
have to say, I've never seen a structure built with those materials.
No,
Where is the?
we haven't either.
You can see the front of the house from Temperance, and you can see the back of the house, the front of the house from
Front's
Maine,
yeah.
the back of the house from Temperance, and it's just 2 houses in from the island,
Gateway, yeah.
Gateway Island.
This island.
Yes,
right
on the
here.
west side. It's Quite
We just
interesting.
had our scheduling conference Monday, I think it was, and they set the trial for September.
Boy, that's a long ways off.
Well, it seems like it, but in terms of the judicial system, it'll be here before you know it.
True. What about the one I've brought up in the past on Tamara and Chandler?
We have a hearing this month on a rule to show cause.
Okay. At least,
What about the service station there by the eye doctor? What's the story on it?
I have no idea.
I talked to Tommy about 2 weeks ago, and he was telling me that the way it looks, early spring, they're gonna start building there. That's what he told me.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
it
that's
would
all.
be nice.
All I know.
I don't know what, I do know that thought there was a slight chance that the eye doctor was going to sell, and I don't know exactly what's happened over there. Someone else took over the practice, or the national firm bought out the practice, but he still owns the property, so.
And also, years ago, we had to mow the retention ponds in Arrowhead subdivision. And the one by Taco Bell,
The state owns that.
the state owns that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And they fight with us about it every year.
Well, it is truly an eyesore.
It is. They won't give it to us. I don't think we really want it, but they won't maintain it. We go through this battle every year.
I got one other question. I'll get a phone call tonight, no doubt, about a dog park. What's happening with the dog park? Is it gonna be there? Is it not gonna be there?
We don't know. I honestly haven't heard anything this year, so I don't know.
That's what I'll tell them. We don't know.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for further information.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I would call for a motion to adjourn.
And remind everybody about our next meeting.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I also want to thank Terry for serving as president of the Plan Commission for many years. He's done an excellent job.
Thank you.
I sure hope that I can do as well as you have.
Thank you.
Our next meeting is March the 5th, 2020, at 6 o'clock. So now I would call for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned.